Actually Lincoln's admonition. Its antecedents actually began in the old Confederacy with what was known as Decoration Day. But it was Mr. Lincoln who determined that we should set aside this day for mourning and regard for those who have served us in various theaters across the globe. And today, we're reminded that it has been the sons and daughters of Lenox and Berkshire County who have in times of peril have answered America's call. Whether it was at Lexington or Concord or Bunker Hill or Kandahar and onto Fallujah, we're reminded of the sacrifice that these men and women have made. As recently as R.J. Muchnick and Mitch Dowling, we know the perils of what they have faced. I want to share a little story because I'm so pleased with this crowd today. Yesterday in Springfield, I attended a ceremony and there were 3 of us. But I hope that younger people in the audience will listen to this because it's a reminder of how important this day is, Memorial Day, derived from the term memory. Yesterday in Springfield, there was a grave marker placed for a Medal of Honor winner. And until April 30th, his grave was known as number 297. 297 for a Medal of Honor winner. Now, the men and women in the military here today, they know what the term Medal of Honor winner means. It's a class unto itself. Luke Griswold performed this remarkable heroism in helping to save the men of the Monitor. Now, the Monitor and the Merrimack, as every school child here knows, is one of the most famous moments in Civil War history, our most perilous moment as a nation, where 600,000 people died, 2% of the population. That's why events like today with memory are so important to recall. Because of men like Luke Griswold and the women who have served us with honor as well. What they did at that particular moment, often without fanfare, often without seeking public adulation or attention, reminds all of us what Memorial Day is supposed to be about. A reminder on this day of something else that I think needs to be told. We now have 1,800,000 new veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. And regardless of how you felt about Iraq and Afghanistan, we need to welcome them back with the same enthusiasm that the most important vote that any member of Congress ever cast, with the importance of that moment to share the rest of their lives because of this. If you're 20 years old and you're wounded in Afghanistan or in Iraq, chances are pretty good because of the miracle of modern medicine, you're going to be in the care of the Veterans Administration actuarially for the next 60 to 70 years. And guess what? That's our responsibility. That's our responsibility as the citizen. The Veterans Administration is on overload right now because of the claims that have been filed. Almost 5,000 killed, 46,000 wounded. So when you hear about the Veterans Hospital in Northampton or the Soldiers' Home in Holyoke, when I hear people say, as they did during budget deliberations, that's the people's money, well, there's another consideration. It's this. Those veterans hospitals, those are the people's responsibilities. And we need to hear that message loud and clear because of the perils that they faced. Think today of those silent stories that will never be told. Think today of those who simply came back and thought they had done what they were supposed to do. And think of those cemeteries today, whether it's Normandy or Gettysburg, which we will celebrate the 150th anniversary of in just a few short weeks. Perhaps the greatest battle in American history. But understand the sacrifice that these men and women have made. They answered the call, and to sometimes when I have a chance to travel, I've been bold and abrasive enough to say to our friends in Europe, Just remember this, in the aftermath of World War II and the Cold War, it was the American taxpayer and the American soldier that made sure you weren't speaking Russian today. That's an important consideration. When you conclude what happened to America in the last 2 decades, it's extraordinary. The collapse of the Soviet Union, freedom in South Africa, the end of the yoke of Marxism in Eastern Europe. And to the veterans that are here today, take satisfaction from this. With the exception of Cuba, every election in Central and South America is freely adhered to today. In some measure, a reflection of the American democratic ideal. And the largest nation on earth, China, they're embracing more free market capitalism. They've become enemies of the Vietnamese. The changes in the Soviet Union. For those of us with gray in our hair growing up, we know what that challenge was about. But always remember this. It was the American soldier and the American taxpayer who continued to light the lamp of liberty for the world, the opportunity that men and women of goodwill might freely choose their leaders in the election place. That we might decide not to tell the world what to do, but that they might emulate the example that we continue to set. The last point. What these men and women defended and advanced was not just the notion in America that we liked parts of the Bill of Rights or that we liked the American Constitution, because there are parts that we disagree with from time to time. But that's not what they did. They defended the right of individuals in America to offer the most unpopular opinions. They defended the right of Americans to say, we know the most grievous crime may well have been committed, but you have a right to an attorney. The most obnoxious editorial that might be written about any one of us. That's the right of a free press. For the clergy that are behind me today, the right to worship as you freely choose when you choose, and if you choose not to, that as well. That's what they defended. And the right on occasions like this to assemble. The best things that happen in America every single day don't necessarily happen in Washington or Boston. They happen right here in settings like this with people just like you. In the town hall, in the local church or synagogue, or in the local public and private schools. It's where the great things play out in America every day. And we can thank those men and women who, again in times of peril, chose to defend us and the principle of the Constitution we all love and adore. Thank you from the United States of America.